Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here with David.
Hello.
This is our final Sunday show for the month. I want to thank everybody for bearing with us as we've shifted so as to be able to give you the heads up on all the powerful energy that's been coming at us this month of Libra. Tomorrow or today, we're beginning this a week that's going to give us the ability to break through the limitations we think we have, right? The reason that we called today's show Transforming Stress into Success is because it really is all about how you look at it. And we're going to share wisdom with you, actions that you can take, all from the wisdom of Kabbalah. David and I are teachers at the Kabbalah Center, and every week we prepare for this show by pouring through texts and years of notes of lectures and classes to give you a condensed prescription for the coming week. Weekly Energy Boost is your weekly forecast for what kind of energy and what kind of opportunities are going to come to you this week.
And this is a powerful subject, one that people are always excited to listen to. What we're going to talk about, I have 10 points myself. I think Elisheva has another 13 points. We don't know what the other is going to say, but they're all secrets about what stress is, where stress comes from, how to overcome stress, how to transform it into miracles. These are concepts. If just one concept is something you take away from this session today, it can be life-changing.
And we do this because this week, according to Kabbalah, according to the Kabbalistic calendar, the universe is going to challenge us to expand our capacity.
Yeah.
This is the week that the universe says, David, you can do more. Are you going to rise to the occasion?
And we learn in Kabbalah that each one of our souls has a purpose in this world. And whether you want to or you don't want to, you're afraid to or you're not afraid, you're not in the mood or not, it doesn't really matter because the soul must complete its correction in this world and must reveal all the energy and miracles and blessings that it wants to reveal. If that soul wants to reveal a child, it's going to reveal it. If that soul wants to reveal sustenance, it's going to reveal it. But it can't come for free. So what the soul will do is the soul will beckon the universe to send you challenges and pressure, and that's what stress is, to go to your next level. So it's always good to stay ahead of what the soul wants as opposed to waiting for the soul to push you to its next level.
And we're going to go back to that point by the end of the show because that I think is really one of the most powerful takeaways.
Write your questions.
Yes, please.
In the comments, we'll be answering them. And obviously like and share where our audience is growing every week because of you.
Right. You can tag your friends in the comments so that they can get on the show. And whether you're watching on Facebook, IGTV, YouTube, we're going to go back and we're going to answer those questions and comments. You can also find us through our podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Castbox, and Stitcher.
And IGTV.
And I think I said that.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right.
So, David's stressing me out. No, I'm just kidding. The thing that David snuck into his little introduction there that I think is a point worth repeating is that stress is the universe telling us, well, I would say it a little bit differently. Stress is our response to the universe telling us we can handle more. There's more blessings for you. There's more, you're capable of more. And many of us, unfortunately, respond to that feeling with stress.
Yeah, every time we desire more from life, it's a signal that we send out to the universe that says, okay, I'm ready to reveal my next level. And for many of us, that could be something about our relationship. It could be moving on from a relationship. It could be something about our career, going to the next level of our current job. It could be working for someone else. It could be becoming your own boss. It's a level of income that you desire to be a channel of, a sustenance that you desire to be a channel of. Maybe you want to affect more people. Maybe there's more, you feel like you have the ability to touch souls and you want to connect to more people. All of this is very altruistic and positive, but even those things are something that we need to earn. As soon as I desire to be a thought leader or I desire to be someone who can help people or a speaker or whatever it is, an influencer, at that moment, you are going to be sent challenges to cleanse certain levels of negativity that have been embedded within the soul so that you can then touch that audience. It's not enough just to want to be great. You have to go through the challenges that make you great so that you can deliver that energy to the world.
And you can look into history to see that that's true, right? Everybody who's really made a difference has gone through a struggle that allowed them to be the person that they are, reach the people that they've reached, make the difference that they made.
If you're going through stress right now, it's because a day ago, a week ago, or a month ago, you put out a signal to the universe that you're ready to go to your next level. So I want you to think about that for a moment. Can you go back and think, what did you either consciously or unconsciously say to the creator, to the universe about your next level and that you desire?
You might have just said, I want my soulmate. And the universe hears your call and says, okay, in order for you to have your soulmate, you need to break through in these ways.
Right.
And here comes the opportunity to break through. And you're like, oh, that's too much for me.
Right. And sometimes it'll show you your insecurity. It'll show you your fears. It'll show you. I know a person who never really scaled their company because they were very comfortable with what they were doing and they were fully in control of the 3-4 people they managed and everything was nice. And the moment that this person told me, I want to go to my next level, I want to go to my next level, and then immediately the universe sent a lot of opportunity, but with that came a lot of stress. And what the stress did is that it awakened things inside of him that he never knew were there. Insecurity, fear. He realized how addicted he is to his comfort, to control issues. And just like Wayne Dyer says, you squeeze the orange and orange juice comes out. When we're squeezed, whatever's inside's coming out. Squeeze an orange, you're not going to get lemon juice. You squeeze an orange, you're not going to get apple juice. When we're squeezed, the truth comes out. And that's also why we do get squeezed. The universe squeezes us to bring the juice out, to show us who we are.
I'm thirsty just
so that
listening.
we can transform it. Yeah, so we can transform it. So it's not a bad thing. Every time you feel stressed out, pause and realize it's actually a good thing. It's actually me breaking out of my shell. That's why it's uncomfortable.
I think that's actually one of the first mistakes we make when we feel stress is that we take it as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I can't handle this. This is too much for me. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good partner. I'm not a good friend. We look at the lack rather than the blessing that's trying to come in. So I think the first thing to understand about those moments of stress is embrace it, because it means that there is something good coming down the pipeline.
Sometimes somebody has a child or a teenager that's out of control and you don't even know how to handle it. You've tried everything and you just feel broken. And that stress is your child is being told by the creator to push you
not consciously, by the way.
Right. The child will never tell you that, but the creator has designated this child to be the force that pushes you to your greatness. And even though you don't know what your greatness is, and even though you don't know how you're going to get out of this, just to know I'm going to a greater level, I don't see what it is, and I need the creator to help me. Sometimes you feel hopeless. You haven't found a love partner. You haven't found a partner to have love with, and you feel stressed out about it. And you don't even know how it's going to be solved. And it seems like it's the same toxic person you attract over and over again as you're dating. That's stressful, especially if you have family putting pressure on you and telling you, where's my grandchild and where's this and that, all those things. You see your friends getting married and you're not. That stress is very positive. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself. Actually say, you know what? I'm being stressed. It means that the light's trying to come in. Love is trying to come in. Let me now think about the things I need to do to become a better vessel for love. Let me transform myself. Maybe this is really something that's interesting when I talk to girls, especially because it plagues women often more than it plagues men. When they feel like they're not meeting the right person, and then they start beating themselves up and they start getting worried about it and they become more needy. It's a vicious cycle. The number one reason, we've talked about this, that a man finds a woman unattractive is when she's not happy. And so the lack of happiness triggers a lot of fear in a man. And men are subconsciously, from cavemen days, been told to stay away from an unhappy person, because it's a lot of things. How is this person going to bring my child to this world? How is this person going to take care of me? How is this person going to handle the pressures of life, et cetera, et cetera? So happiness is really important. And when you feel stressed and you don't know how to handle the stress, you're going to be sad. you're gonna fall into a depression and you're gonna beat yourself up. So what you're gonna learn today from the session is how to transform your belief system even about stress and to awaken happiness.
Well, this goes back to something we talk about probably on every other show. You know, the moment that stress comes up, you have the choice: is this going to build me or is this going to destroy me?
Right.
And unfortunately, we tend to take the stress inward, right? We ignore it, or we try to handle it with, various different ways, and we end up not answering the call from the universe.
Right.
So that is what ends up bringing people, their immune system is weakened, the stress ends up taking a toll on their health because it's never really faced. That's one of the great destructions that can come from not really listening to what the universe is trying to give us through the stressful situation.
This week, we do receive the strength and the power to break free from stress and to make what's called surrounding light, inner light. The Kabbalists give this beautiful terminology that our inner light is all the blessings we have earned. It can be my wisdom, it can be prosperity, it can be a certain level of expertise you have. That's your inner light. It's inner energy. You've earned it. It's within your realm. Then there's something called your surrounding light, which all of our souls come to this world with this huge surrounding light. It's all the potential we haven't revealed. So our soulmate is in the surrounding light. Our future career is in the surrounding light.
The
our
books we're going to write, the people we're going to reach, all of our capacity
it's
is
in
our
the surrounding light. And the surrounding light pushes you, pressures you to become revealed as inner light. Kind of imagine if I take an empty water bottle that's closed and I stick it under a pool of water, all of a sudden all this water is building pressure on this bottle to go into the bottle. As soon as I open the cap of the bottle, all the water will rush in. So that's the same with us. The light is pressuring to come in. We got to open ourselves up to let that light in. And we're going to give some steps right now on how to do so.
I want to bring, if with your permission, of course, our teacher, Rav Berg, wrote a book many years ago called The Power of You. And there's a chapter there around stress, and the Rav shares this beautiful metaphor that I think really clearly illustrates the question that stress begs us to ask: do you want less or do you want to do more? Right? When the stress comes, remember we just said in the beginning, it's because we've asked for some blessing, some next level, and now we need to make the effort. So if you can't handle the stress, you need to ask for less or you need to do more.
It's such an unbelievable. When I heard this for the first time, I heard it about 15 years ago, that when I'm in a stressful or pressured situation, my opponent and the whole world is really thinking, oh, I need to back off.
Right.
How can I?
I've bitten off more than I can chew.
Exactly. It's too much for me. Take a step back. And Rav Berg says quite the opposite. He says, ask for more. You should ask your soul, ask the universe, give me more. But how am I going to handle more? The asking for more is basically asking the creator to expand your vessel. Don't downgrade, upgrade. When you downgrade, you go back to the old you, and then you have to face this situation again. But when you say, oh no, I want to go to my next level, let's expand, even though you don't know what that's going to look like or how it's going to happen, just by you planting that energy and telling the creator, I want more than I ever had, right, even though I'm in pressure right now. Then all of a sudden the creator comes to help.
So the metaphor is, the Rav writes in the Power of You, imagine if you have a factory and that factory produces a certain amount of product every month, but the demand from your buyers is requiring you to bring bigger machinery. So you buy the bigger machinery and your structural engineer comes to you and says, listen, boss, it's our current factory, the floor cannot hold the weight of the new machinery. So he gives you three options. He says you can return the machine, stay the same company, reject the orders, and just status quo, like you were saying your friend or this person that did. Okay, that's option number one. It's a quiz show now. Option number two, reinforce the floor so that then it can handle the heavier machinery and the increased output. Or move to the factory, change the location altogether to a place that can handle greater expansion. That's really what happens. The example is great because whatever you choose, you have to change your vessel. Either you shrink it, you strengthen it, or you expand it. But you cannot, stress is telling you cannot stay the same.
We just had an event a couple of weeks ago, Rosh Hashanah in Times Square, with about 3,000 people from all around the world. And this hotel, I won't say the name of the hotel, but this hotel that we've been at many years.
This is the only stressful thing I experience in my life. Going to this event every year. And what David's going to say.
And many years ago, when we first went to this hotel, we were the only event that they ever had where we pretty much almost broke their floor. Remember?
Right. You stand on the floor and it feels like you're floating on the ocean. The floor is rolling.
Like they had to bring the fire department in because our energy was so intense. Like imagine 3,000 people going nuts, crazy with energy and prayer and meditation and song and connection that we almost
like such a joyous
it's a joyous
event
occasion.
So that the floor
We
is like
cracked their floor.
reverberating.
So they actually banned us from coming to the hotel, and instead of them upgrading their vessel, they asked us to downgrade our energy. So we did come back. We did keep going back every year, but we had to downgrade. We actually cannot jump up and down. That's kind of the we can sing and yell, but we cannot jump. So I thought that was interesting. All right, let's give people tools to overcome stress. These are tools that are both Kabbalistic and brought from...
But I want to just preface this with, there are two things you can do. The first thing we're going to talk about is how to handle stress. And then before the end of the show, stay tuned because we're going to talk about how to prevent stress.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. So first, you're already stressed out. Listen up. Stay tuned because we're going to tell you how to prevent future stress.
I like it. So stress often means something I'm not doing that I should be doing. And in Kabbalah, it could be around my tikkun, my personal correction.
It can be. It is.
It is. It is.
It is always.
It is always centered around something that I need to transform about myself. So one area where people are usually feel stressed out is they have a people-pleasing mentality, and they are a yes person. So yes people who have a fear to set boundaries, a fear to say no, a fear to find the balance because they want to kind of please everyone and they want to be there for everyone. And also, yes, people are afraid not to be involved. So
to lose their relevance.
To lose their relevance, exactly. So they want to be at every event. They want to be at every this and that. So what happens is, even though it seems like you're being very productive by doing this, spiritually, you're disconnecting yourself from the light of the Creator because you're reacting to a fear. Yes, people are often stressed because part of their spiritual work is to learn to say no when they feel deep down inside that it's wrong. Because before we say yes or no, we do have a feeling of what's right and what's wrong, what's necessary and what's unnecessary. We have a feeling, but our fear of missing out overwhelms that internal gut instinct, and we end up saying yes to everything. So ask yourself if you are a yes person, or maybe you're very much a no person. It's like too much no's. And both cases, it's coming from fear. Both cases, it's coming from something you don't want to deal with. And that's why there's stress and pressure. No people, and you just start saying yes. It's amazing. You know, I have somebody who's very in control of their schedule, and I said, "Why don't you come here with me? Why don't we go on this trip? Why don't we do?" No. It's got everything. And all of a sudden, when they say yes,
you don't ask me to go on trips.
No, I don't. When you say yes, this person said yes.
Stressful people.
When this person said yes, all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, that was the best trip I ever went on," and they felt that the stress went away. And then the yes people say yes to everything, finally saying, "No, I'm going to spend time with my family."
So I want to point something out. What the two scenarios, even though they're polar opposites, the same thing that they have in common is that in order to alleviate the stress, you have to do what's opposite to your nature.
That's correct.
So that's going to come up later again. There's a key there of getting outside of your comfort zone. Going against your nature is one of the keys to success.
And we're getting some comments that say, well, how do I know when to say yes, when to say no? And there is no template for it. But I think if we start getting in the mode of self-auditing and asking ourselves, okay, what will help me grow? It's all about what will
There's
help me
also
grow.
a broken belief system in there that what I want is not important or as important as maintaining this persona or this lifestyle or whatever. Not honoring or valuing your needs, your light, your desires is a recipe for ultimate failure.
Right. My kids' schedule is more important than my schedule. Their needs are more important than my needs. This is all something that is
it can be
destructive
subconscious,
for both,
by the way.
both sides.
It can also be subconscious. People were raised, very common for the middle child to think that they don't, nobody's going to notice anyway, or they need to be exceptional in order to be noticed.
Yeah.
And they're not really recognizing the fact that that's because somewhere someone gave them the feeling overtly or covertly that they're not valuable.
All right.
So it might not be as obvious, and what this week is really asking us to do is to look at those things.
If you are a yes person or a no person, find the middle point and start experimenting. The only way to really know if this is going to work for you is to start experimenting. What was that movie with Jim Carrey? Yes Man? Yes Man? Something like that. Anyways, he was a person who said no to everything. I think it was Jim Carrey. He said no to everything, and he was like miserable, and all of a sudden he was told to just say yes to everything. So every time
you may have to be extreme about it in the beginning to find the happy balance.
The movie showed the power of really just going against your nature. All right, I have another one, and then maybe you want to share. Here's something I see very often. One of the reasons why people are stressed out, and our audience can ask themselves is, if this is you, we complicate everything. We have a very complicated life, and we have so much going on. It's actually unnecessary. We have an overcomplicated life, and we have a fear to simplify it, a fear to kind of put it, to just focus on the most important things, a fear to let certain things go. And that leads into my second point. I'm going to tie it together. Sometimes you have to end a relationship that doesn't serve you. The number one draining force in our lives are relationships that should not be there. A relationship that's draining you, a relationship that's not serving you or them, something you're holding on to in hopes of something. It's all fear-based.
By the way, I can give you a more subtle version of what David is saying. I remember, I can think of two people that I know that are professionals that would give their clients an hour, right? They would pay whatever hourly fee. They saw them for an hour. And by the end of the day, they had run themselves ragged, didn't have time to cook, didn't have time to spend time with their, like they were just bouncing from client to client to client. And I said to them, how do you prepare for your meetings? I remember having this conversation with both of them. They looked at me like, prepare for my meetings? What they ended up concluding, both of them, was that they'll meet with the client for 50 minutes and spend the 10-minute break between the two meetings, recalling the last meeting, going into their files. Again, these are people that are in therapy and medicine and whatnot. And, taking time to go to the restroom, make a cup of coffee, have a snack. And the whole thing that was preventing them from doing that, they knew that that was the right thing to do, but they didn't want to disappoint the client. They had made themselves out to be above and beyond serving and there for everybody. And they were afraid, like you said, fear of what people would think or do if they didn't give what they had given before. And that, I think that the precedent we set by giving too much, or, this is the whole runaway bride thing, right? I have a student that left her groom at the altar because she realized she could not possibly be the person that she made herself out to be in order to catch him.
Nice.
So we want to make sure that kind of stress, she was so stressed out, she walked away at the wedding, right? We want to make sure that all of that pressure that's coming to us is not based on other people's thoughts or feelings about us. That is a recipe for disaster.
And sometimes sometimes a relationship can be firing a client. Or I've fired students before, right? You meet the student for a while and you feel like they're not really listening and they're just taking the energy. They're not doing anything with it. It doesn't serve the student. It doesn't serve the teacher. I've fired students before, and sometimes
it's not an aggressive thing.
No,
it's not a violent or negative firing.
Not an abrasive fire, but just a realization that maybe I'm not the right person for them. So I know people who raise money, who have investors, and sometimes they're so afraid to say no to an investor that they get these investors that I had a student who had a minimum of, let's put it this way, all the smaller investors are often the most annoying ones. Right? and so they said, the bigger the investor, the ones who invest a lot of money are usually more professional. They're not calling you every day. And then you got the smaller investors who just put in a little bit, but it's like their life saving. So they're afraid every day and they're calling. And I said, well, why don't you just set the bar and say, the minimum investment is whatever it is, 100,000, 5, whatever it is. So you can avoid having those people who drain your energy and then you're not productive for everybody else. And so I'm just so afraid to say no because I feel like the universe is offering me money and I can't say no to it. And that's not true. The universe is offering you a challenge to say no. So It's not like you're not appreciating the universe when you say no to the small investor. And that was very hard because as soon as he did that, he did attract more of the bigger investors. And now he had the energy to scale his business.
And if you're listening closely to what both David and I have said, part of what this requires of each of us individually is to be aware of what our tikkun is, to be aware of what we're here to work on, right? So it means, David uses the word self-auditing. I prefer the word reflecting. But whatever works for you, the more you do it, the more you're going to be cognizant of those opportunities that the universe is telling you go against your nature.
Transformation is always in that area where you feel stuck and you feel addicted to a certain habit or a system. And it's always good to break out of that system. You should never have something where you always do and you feel that you are stuck in it, that you feel that without it
owns you.
It owns you, exactly. A habit can't own you. You have to own the habit. A structure and a system can't own you. You have to own it. And the way to do that is, like we said, experiment with the opposite. Experiment. There's no rule here. You need to find out what's going to work for you. But to become free, you have to experiment breaking out of it. If I told this person start firing some small investors, you got to experiment. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but at least you're going to go against your nature. You're going to see what's right for you.
It's always a risk to go against your nature, but it's also risky staying the same.
It's always a risk that ends up working out. So it's actually never a risk.
Well, but I'm saying the perception is, well, what if I say no? What if I change who I've always been? Don't worry about it.
Then you fail quick. And we said failing quick is a good thing. You fail quick and then you know what to do.
And by the way, just because somebody does say, hey, but what happened to my 60-minute treatment? Or, hey, what happened to, you're supposed to answer you didn't answer my email in, 2 hours. It's okay if people are not okay with it.
Set your boundaries.
It's often a good sign,
So what do you have? Do you have something else on your list? I have a couple more.
Go with yours because I have the formula for...
Write your comments and questions. If there's specific situations that you feel pressure and stress that you want us to address, ask them now. And
or forever hold your peace.
All right.
Speak now.
I'm like, I hate when people finish my sentence with saying that. And you fell for it. You fell for it. And I
am the cliche.
After Elisheva says it, even she's like, oh, God, why did I fall for that?
I'm full of the dad puns. That's me. Go, David, right. Go.
The other thing, so stress also comes to this kind of a person who likes to micromanage and control. If you are a controlling person, you will feel stress all the time. Why? Because the way the universe works is the universe has a direction that is the most powerful for you. Almost never do we understand what that direction is. So when we have our own system, our own way of doing things, our own way that something has to be a certain way, and we're not open to it pivoting, we will feel pressure and we will stress and we'll feel angry. So what's the best compromise? What should a controlling person do? First, acknowledge that you have control issues. Number 2, have a system, have a plan, have a schedule, have an SOP, a standard operating procedure, but at the same time, listen to the universe when the universe wants you to pivot and try something new immediately. People
with control issues anticipate stress, right? Their response is, oh, that's going to be too stressful. How do you know? You're not even there yet, right? But because when you are a micromanager and you know that your expectations are high and you are sorely attached to them, you know that any risk in deviating from your plan is going to bring you stress.
I see control happening a lot in relationships. One partner tries to control the other partner, tries to control the way they feel. I see men who see sometimes their wives or their partner not happy, and that's all they want. How do I make you happy? What can be happy? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to even control the situation as opposed to just allowing the person to go through a process. Sometimes we don't like to see other people in pain. We don't like to see other people unhappy. We don't like to see other people who we love not grow. So we try to control their process and push them and try to fix it. And all of that is also a major spiritual short circuit, which disconnects us from our soul and then brings the stress on. It's so beautiful when you kind of just let it go. Stop helicopter everything. Stop helicopter parenting. Stop helicopter relationshiping. Just kind of let go and allow people to go through their process.
It's so funny. I met somebody this past week who was telling me about free-range children.
I like that. Free range.
Yeah. That's
the grass-fed, free-range children.
That's the opposite of helicopter parenting, is growing free-range children. I thought that was brilliant. You know,
it is. You have the barriers.
Right. You have a fence, but they're free to roam.
Free to roam. I like that.
Right. Go. I want to hear more.
I got one more when it comes to the business. All startups and everybody faces this challenge of scaling up. Scaling up is when your business is ready to go to this next level, or your employees are ready to go to the next level.
I think that's not just business. I think even as an employee, you'd never want to be resigned to the $90,000 a year. You want to be able to scale up. You want to be able to do more and add more value and receive more in return.
That is correct. Where I'm going is going to be different than what an employee will face. I'm talking about if you're an entrepreneur or you're in charge of something, at some point the business wants to grow, but you're not wanting to grow. Your employees and your customers want more from you, but you haven't figured it out.
Isn't that relevant for somebody who's managing a team or works with a,
correct.
You have the way you like to do things, and then you have the demand that's coming from around you.
Any kind of CEO or managing position, eventually the stress comes because you're bottlenecking the process. You're making everybody dependent on you. Nothing moves forward until you say it's okay. You have to oversee the whole process.
Unfortunately, I have faces appearing in my mind of people that are suffer from that.
And I remember the first time that I was faced with this problem and I had to scale, and we have a couple of people working for us. I called a very successful person with 30 employees, and I said, how do you do it? Like, aren't you afraid they're going to just screw up your business and the whole thing's going to crash and burn? I mean, who's as smart as you? And so the owner said, you know what? I thought the same thing. And then I have a team now and they're all better than me. Like I read this in a business book once, that a good CEO is always the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
So what you want, especially if you have that correction, if that's you, if you're the bottleneck, when you go against it, the universe also sends you a blessing. It's kind of you're going against your nature, so you always get a miracle. So the universe will actually send you people who are better than you, and then everybody wins, and then you have more free time to be creative, because what you did to be in your successful position is you had creativity. And it's very important for all CEOs and all managers to open up their creative mind. And when you're bottlenecking it and you're controlling the situation, that's just not happening.
David dropped a nugget in that whole conversation about CEOs and managers that's universal. And that is, anytime we go against our nature, we bring a miracle. Mm-hmm. You're looking for a miracle, go against your nature. And that as
long as going against your nature is towards a positive thing.
Well, how could it be negative?
So for example, if I'm doing this radio show on one leg, that's going against my nature, but that's not really helping anybody.
I see. Okay.
Going against your nature needs to be something that is
sleeping on thumbtacks.
Yes, exactly. It's uncomfortable to sleep on stones, but that's not helping anybody.
Right. I see your point. It's really stretching yourself, and that's actually a great segue to the preventing. Well, let's say diffusing and preventing future stress. Okay, I have a formula here. David's usually the one with formulas, but I'm going to give you a pretty succinct route, three possible routes for alleviating stress, and then we can talk about how to use those same things for preventing stress.
Please.
So we just revealed the first one. The first one is, if you find yourself in a stressful situation, get outside of your comfort zone. Do something against your nature. Stretch yourself. Doing what you've always done isn't working. Mm-hmm. Try something different. Mm-hmm. I want to say it's the easiest. It's obviously the hardest, but it's the thing that comes to mind quickest, because your nature is what got you there in the first place. That to me, I didn't have a light bulb go off when I heard that the first time. I had fireworks. If your nature got you there in the first place, get outside of your nature. That's the thing that's going to transform not only the situation that's stressing you, but as we said before, bringing a miracle.
Your next level is always what's unknown to you, and that's why it's called your next level. If you knew it and you understood it and you felt comfortable with it, it would be your current level. We say that all the time, and people are just shocked that the next level is something that is very scary. It's because you just don't know about it. You've never been there, so it is scary. It is unknown to you. If it's familiar, it means you've already been there, so it's not your next level.
Right. Ask yourself, are you the type of person that vacations at the same place every year, or do you prefer to vacation at different places?
I like it.
Okay, number 2.
How much time do we have, by the way?
11 minutes.
Okay, go.
Number 2, let go. That may be the answer we give in every show, but I'm going to explain how it's more specific. In Kabbalistic terms, we call this restriction. Mm-hmm. In layman's terms, the best way to describe it is to let go. There is something going on, in the bottleneck. If you're a bottlenecker, it's more obvious, perhaps. Looking for where your let go, the magic let go, is in a typical situation. If you're a yes man or a no man, it's going to be different in every situation. But there's got to be something that you can resist or detach from that will allow, for example, going back to the Rav's metaphor about the factory, if you need to let go of that factory and get a bigger factory, you're going to have to, I use the words, let go. It's not serving you anymore. Drop it. Yes. Don't be attached to it. Don't be a swamp. We said a couple months ago. River. Be a river. But that also, there is a magic in doing that. Again, it may be scary because there's a lot of unknown factors, but it is a recipe not only for alleviating stress, but again, bringing a miracle. And the last one is take a risk.
I like that.
There is a risk. The truth is that what the Kabbalist teaches that you have to strengthen your certainty in the Creator. The way that we do that is by taking risks, and not stupid risks. We're not saying, set the factory on fire and let's see if we get insurance money. We're saying, it may be a risk to go to the bigger factory. It may be a bigger risk. It may be a risk to, this is now leading me into the preventing stress thing. Those 3 things, getting outside of your comfort zone, letting go, or taking a risk, or again, in Kabbalistic terms, we say growing your certainty. Those 3 things, when done proactively, will prevent you from needing stress in your life. So let's go at that again on a proactive way. Things are great, right? You're coasting through life. You're loving what's going on. You may have, different things here and there that you could be working on, but in general, if things could go on forever this way, you'd be grateful, okay? Inevitably, according to the laws of the universe, something is going to come to rattle the cage, okay? How do you prevent that from happening? You do one of those 3 things proactively. You find a way to get outside of your comfort zone, not because you have to, but because you have the freedom and the luxury to do it now without a gun to your head.
To validate what Elisheva is saying, there's a concept in the business world, a simple concept called A/B test. What does it mean to A/B test? For example, if you have 2, let's say you're trying to create packaging for something, and you have 2 designs, and you don't know which is better. So you A/B test it. You show it to groups of people, focus groups, you run ads on it, and you see what engages more. The beautiful thing about an A/B test is that one is always going to fail, and one is always going to succeed. But you're going into it knowing that. A lot of people don't A/B test. They either don't test at all, meaning they don't even try, or they try one thing and think that everyone's going to love it. And we talked about this before, that everybody thinks that their baby's beautiful. Nobody thinks that their baby's ugly. And this is a big thing. A person creates a product and they're so in love with it and they think the whole world's going to love it, and it's really ugly. It's actually not a good product. You have to A/B test. You have to ABCDEF test, actually, knowing that 6 are going to fail, 1's going to succeed. So when it comes to risk, Elisheva's right. You must risk, and you must know that you're going to learn more from the failure than you are from the success. The success actually doesn't mean much. It's the failure that actually builds the character, builds the wisdom, builds the sustenance.
And that, looking at that in terms of, we've made this very much, even with the factory example, it sounds like it's all about business, but this may be happening in your family. You may have kids at different stages of life. You may have a career that you're trying to develop. You may have your own personal partner, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend. You're trying to nourish and enrich every relationship, every aspect of your life, and there's only so much of you to go around. Where can you get outside of your comfort zone? Well, like David said, it may be saying no. It may be saying, you know what, whatever, our Thursday night pizza nights have got to stop because there's something there. I've got to let go of something in order to create space for more to come in.
I can't tell you how many people are still friends with the friends that they had in high school just because they have guilt about letting it go. And sometimes these friends are just toxic or don't really contribute anything, and it's not really helping you grow. Everyone in our lives needs to be someone that we are either helping grow, either we are helping grow or they're helping us grow, and there's a mutual beneficial energy. And not that we're helping them grow from a place of, wanting to be the savior, or we get off on that, but it's actually a synergistic relationship. Energy sucking relationships are the biggest stressors in life. Biggest stressor.
But to David's point, though, I don't think that it's fair to ask every relationship to be 50-50 all the time.
Or not synergistic. Right. Doesn't have to be 50-50.
There may be ebbs and flows, but there's a desire to meet you where you're at and vice versa. And I think that that's important because, right. My 3-year-old isn't able to reciprocate as well as I'd like her to
my
right
opinion
now.
About your 3-year-old. Everyone's got to start paying rent. I think by the time they get to 4 or 5, my kids, they're going to be a bill every week.
Yes, I'm going to write that book one day. So again, going to the preventing stress, you can prevent stress by proactively getting outside of your comfort zone, proactively letting go, proactively restricting, and proactively taking risks, growing your certainty in the universe and the laws of cause and effect, because then you won't need to feel choked. You're constantly encouraging the river to run in your life.
Beautiful. I got 2 quick secrets as we wrap up just about stress. Number 1, a quick fix. So whenever you feel overwhelmed and you feel a lot of pressure, don't know what to do about it, even before you do all the other things we said, gratitude actually immediately de-stresses a person. It's a very powerful thing. It's a medicine.
That's a frosting on the cake. Gratitude.
It's gratitude. So what does that mean? It means taking a moment and finding what's good about it. Sometimes I have sessions with people and they're complaining about somebody in their life, spouse, friend, whatever, and they're saying it's somebody they love. Oh, they did this and they did that wrong and this wrong and that wrong. And I said, well, was there anything positive? Did they do anything good for you? And they go, oh yeah, actually. And they start talking about maybe the 1 or 2 things that were really powerful. And then you see their whole energy change. They're not stressed out anymore. They're not angry anymore. To find the good things, in spite of the bad things, to find the good things and focus on it allows you to connect to the energy of positivity, which immediately begins to heal you. So even though there's a good and a bad in everything, it's important to take time to focus on some of the good to allow that good to heal you. It's medicinal.
I'm going to say something before we wrap things up that I don't think is going to be very popular. I'm going to be that person on the show. I'm going to be David today. That's on the show. Yeah. Stress is a choice. Stress is reactive. Stress is what happens when we respond to that surrounding light from the universe. No one's stressing
you out.
No one can unless you let them. So part of what the universe is asking us to do this week, and of course it applies all the time, but those stressors are going to be there present this week because we have the choice this week to create a new pathway, a new inroad in our behavior, in our perspective, in our consciousness. I get to decide how this affects me, if it stresses me out, or if I use it to build a new level in my life for myself. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, we are here on Facebook Live, Instagram, IGTV, and YouTube. We can answer your questions in the comments. If you don't want to ask those questions or make those comments publicly, you can email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, CastBox, and Stitcher. We depend on your reviews and ratings so that we can reach more people. Share the show. Let us know what you think. We want to hear all the good, the bad, and the ugly. David?
That's it. This is a hugely popular show, and it's something that I know a lot of people face. And every time we feel stress, it just means something great wants to come into our lives. Don't be afraid of it.
By the way, we're going back next week to our regular schedule. We'll be back next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific here on the Weekly Energy Boost.